Hi guys, we're going to review today some of the stuff we went over in class regarding perspective, and also how to use some of the pencils, the willow bar or the vine charcoal, and some of the other tools that you got in the class. First, I want to show you, I have my newsprint pad on like this collapsible drawing table thing. It just has like a part in the back that you can adjust to change the slant. So it gives me like a little bit of a like a rise to the surface, which makes it just a little easier to use that full arm motion when I'm drawing. I have my vine charcoal here, and I'm just going to, holding it back on the barrel, I'm going to lightly use it to draw a basic sphere. And when I'm happy with the shape that I like, I'm going to go in and restate some of those lines. Then I'm going to use my kneaded eraser and take out, especially where I'm going to have my light coming in, I don't want a lot of line there, and kind of take out some of these seeking lines. And because I use the vine, it's a lot easier to lift up off of the paper than it would have been if I had used the other charcoal that you have. Okay. And so now I'm going to switch over to that. And I already have the tape peeled back and a decent point on the tip of the charcoal. And so I'm just going to start putting down some of the charcoal. Now this is going to be my terminator right here, okay? So my light's coming from this direction. My cast shadow is going to be cast off this way, oops, that way. So as the light hits this, it's going to go around the ball or the sphere, and then the shadow will be on the other side. So this will be pretty much my darkest dark. So you see I just moved up on the barrel of my pencil, and I'm going to go in with more pressure here and get this line in. All right, you can already see what a difference that makes right there, with just the illusion of it being three-dimensional. It's already starting to add to that illusion. So we're going to want everything on this side of the sphere to be darker than everything that's on this side of the sphere. Even though there will be a reflected light bouncing back up into here, it will all be darker than anything over here, okay? And on the sphere itself, this will be the darkest part. So here's where you kind of want to remember your value scale. So if you have a value scale over here of, let's say, what is that, 6? Yeah, let's do 6 steps. Okay, so this is my lightest light here. This is going to be my darkest dark. And remember, this is how we create that value scale. We define our end points of our lightest light. And our darkest dark. Sorry guys, I have dogs and kids and everything, so it tends to get a little noisy in the background. And I'm going to use a smudge stick, I have here somewhere, to smooth this out and see how dark we got. Probably go back in a little bit darker here. Okay, blow off the extra dust. Now I'm going to go back over here to the light side. I'm going to do my next step up from my lightest value, really far back on the barrel of the charcoal pencil, applying very light pressure. right, I'm going to smooth that. Now, the charcoal that's already on my blending stump gave that more value than I wanted it to. So I'm going to lift up some of that because it got darker than I wanted it. But now I'm going to go over here to this side, further up on the pencil. So I'm applying a little bit more pressure this way. Remember, I was back here when I was doing this one, and now my hand is up here on the barrel of the pencil. And back in with my blending stump. I want to have it be an even jump from each square or rectangle. Okay, so I'm going to go back over here to my next jump in value from the light side. Okay, smooth that. Now I think that's still a little bit darker than I really want it, so I'm going to lift off some of that value there. Okay. All right, and then now for that middle tone, I may need to darken this one a little bit, but let's see. No, actually this one needs to be lighter. And so one of the ways I checked that was I just looked at it and I squinted my eyes to see how they blended into each other. And yeah, that's better. That looks more even, which then gives me room to put this value in. Okay, now these are too close. Yeah, they're too close. So let's darken this a little bit more. And we're going to lighten this just a little bit. Darken this a little bit more still. Darken that. I keep squinting at it to see like, and all the details kind of blend together, like how each jump looks, each jump in value, and make sure that they're even, like it's an even, there's this much difference in value between this one and sorry about that, my camera cut off there, but as you can see, I've got a fairly decent value scale going on, and I can use this to help me figure out what values I need to put where on this, because this will be the value here at the darkest part, and this should be the value at the terminator, and this will be the value through most of the shadow side, and then we'll move up into this where the reflected light is, and over here will be the value on the light side, with this being the highlight. Okay, and so it may take you some attempts at, you may need to go back and forth between putting down value and erasing and adjusting in order to get everything looking correct, but having that value scale there gives you somewhere to start. And like it's kind of like your map on where you want everything to end up. So I'm just going to put down a light tone on the shadow side, and then go in even lighter on the light side. I'm going to keep my highlight somewhere in that vicinity. And right now my transitions are all really sharp, which we don't want. I'm going to use my blending stump to come in here and smooth out some of this charcoal. And remember, you want your curves to go up pretty high on the edge of your sphere. That will also be somewhat determined by the proximity of the light to your sphere, to your object, and as will the sharpness of the edge, the distinctness between the light and dark side. A lot of that will depend on how near or far your light source is. So I want to erase some of this. Go back in with my blending stump over here on the light side, and once again the stump is putting down more value than I really wanted it to right there, but it's easily lifted with my kneaded eraser. Okay. And you can use both the blending stump and your eraser for smoothing out your tone, smoothing out your charcoal, the lines in it, and just kind of blending everything to a uniform value. Both work nicely for that. The blending stump tends to push the charcoal further into the fibers of the paper, whereas the kneaded eraser will tend to lift more than it pushes in. It does a little bit of both, but it will lift also. Okay, so I've got, say, this in here. I could probably go even a little bit darker there, but I don't think maybe right here I will. And then this I need to definitely go darker because it needs to be this value. And then this needs to be darker to this value and this value right in here, which I think I could maybe go a little bit darker there, but I definitely need to go darker here. And you see how, like, I can, knowing where my dark and light parts are supposed to be, I can look at my value scale to see where I need to go darker. I can match the values up and know that, okay, that's not dark enough, or that's too dark. Okay, so now I'm wanting to match this guy. All right, back in with the blending stump. Losing my shape here. Although I'm not quite so concerned about it being a perfect circle at this point as or a perfect sphere as I am about making sure that the values are reading correctly. That's more the point of the exercise. Okay, remember we don't want to get any lighter than this right here. So it might be just a tad lighter. And I still need to go darker on this terminator. Soften those transitions so you can tell that the light is moving gradually over the form and that it's not a sharp edge. Bring this transition up a little bit more and smooth it out a little bit more. Darker again. All right, we're starting to get into that value now. Kind of have too much reflected light showing up right now, so I'm going to tone that, or just kind of make that area a little smaller. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now we're going to go back in here with this cast shadow. Get this guy in here again, back up on high up on the barrel of the pencil. And then as you bring that cast shadow out more, it's going to get lighter. I'm just going to go ahead and draw over my value scale here. It'll still be a pretty dark value at the edge of the cast shadow, but it will be a lighter value than what's right here. This is going to always be the darkest spot because when it's on the opposite side of the shape from where the light is, and this is where the shape is blocking the light, then there's no light reaching into here. The reflected light is bouncing back from over here, but there's nothing being reflected back into this spot. Okay. I'm going to smooth out this tone. And now this is going to be a firm edge, but not a hard edge. This will be a hard edge, this will be firm. Okay, so there you have it, a sphere drawn with a, what is that, 6-point value scale. So you have the highlight, and then light side, terminator, shadow side, reflected light, and then your darkest value. Okay, and then I'm going to switch over from that and we can work a little on the perspective stuff that we talked about in class. So with 1-point perspective, here, 1-point perspective, you're going to have your eye level. All right, so this is eye level. All right, so whether you're sitting or standing, this is where you're, when you hold your head, sit up straight, or however you're sitting, when you hold your head in like a neutral position and look straight out, that's where your eye level is, okay? So this is your eye level. If you're drawing a box that is directly on your eye level, it's going to look like this. You won't see the top or the bottom. You'll just see a flat square, so this flat pane. However, if your box is below your eye level, and your vanishing point is right here, you can't see either side, you can just see the top of the box. So how you figure that out is you connect the top corners to that vanishing point, and then you would measure, like if you're using, if you're drawing an actual box that you're looking at or a shape that you're looking at, you remember you put your elbow, lock your elbow, put your arm out, and use your pencil to measure the distance from the top and the bottom of the front plane of the box, and then how that ratio, what the ratio is between that measurement and the top plane of the box. So like say it was half of what this is. So we'll go half, and then that would put that mark right there. So half of that measurement would be here to here, and that's half of this measurement. So that gives you your line there, okay? So that is a box where you can, that actually I should have drawn that one right here because we're not seeing to the side of it. So again, you measure this one. Okay, so half of that be right there. Okay, so that's a box below eye level. Above eye level, you just see the front plane and you don't see either side. Again, connect those corners to the point on your eye level. And again, you're going to measure the front plane of the box to the ratio of the bottom plane of the box. So say this is 1/4 of the front plane. So 1/4 would be approximately right there. Oops. And so we're going to know right here is where your bottom plane of the box is. And it goes down like that. Okay. Now, if you have, like how I should have drawn this one, if you have a box below eye level and it's to the side, so again, we're going to connect these lines this way. Now we're going to bring in this bottom line and connect it up. Okay. And so now same thing, you want to figure out in comparison to the measurement of this front plane, how much of the side plane do you see? Let's say let's say half. We see half of that. So You go here, and that's about there. Oops. Okay, and that it's the same thing here. It's about half, and so I'm going to make this line here. So now you have this box in 1 point perspective, okay? And like you would do this the same way. If this went this way, and then like that. That's probably confusing. Ignore that if that just sent you over the edge. But so that's the 1 point perspective. For the 2 point perspective, it works similarly. You have the eye level, okay? And instead of drawing a flat plane, we're just gonna draw a line. And we're gonna have one vanishing point over here and one vanishing point over here. Now, how do you decide whether or not you're supposed to be drawing 1 point or 2 point perspective? So the question is, do the lines of what you're drawing go off into, like, so the lines always converge to a point. Like as they go off in the distance, they come to a point. So are they going off this way and this way, or are they going straight back, even if like all the lines are going in one direction instead of splitting? If they're all going in one direction, you're going to see a flat plane in front. If they're splitting, you're going to see an edge in the front. Okay, so here we start with one edge, and we're going to connect the top and the bottom of the edge to each vanishing point on our eye level. Okay. And so now we have to check to see how much of each plane on the right plane and the right side and the left side are we seeing. And so again, in comparison to the height of our square, how much of the right side are we seeing? And let's say it's half. So we're going to say right about here. And we're going to say a quarter for the left side. All right, now I'm going to connect this line to this vanishing point and this line to this vanishing point. Okay, so that gives me these lines right here. And so that is a box now drawn in perspective. And you would erase all of these other lines, your guidelines. Now, you don't always have to go through all of this in order to draw a box in perspective, because it's a lot. Just when you're thinking of your box, you want to keep in mind that these lines are going back to something else. And so they're not parallel, they're convergent. And so at some point they will meet up, some point in the distance, they will meet up together, okay? And so, and that when you draw this line in, this line is going to, the edge of this is going to converge over to the opposite corner. And same thing with this, it's going to converge that way. And so when you do this, you should get something like this. So you have a box, another box in perspective. And you don't have to go through all of the, drawing out the eye level and the vanishing points and all of that. You just need to be aware that these should not be parallel lines. These should not be parallel lines, and these should not be parallel lines. They need to converge. The side closest to you, this will be wider than this side, as this is the side farthest from you. And it's a lot to take in. It's a lot. If your mind isn't geared to this stuff, it's okay. It's a lot to think about, and you can definitely get by for quite a while on having a really basic understanding of how this works. It's just something to keep in mind that it is something to keep in mind as you're drawing your shapes, that perspective applies to it. And especially if you want to go into like figure drawing or things like that, you've seen people use boxes to show the form of the pelvis. Oh, that's not a good example of it, but the rib cage and the pelvis, and when you have these, they'll do something along the lines of this. And when you have these in perspective, when you're able to draw them in perspective, that makes thinking about foreshortening and things like that just a lot easier. Just kind of like a basic figure here. So you have cylinder, box, cylinder, box, cylinder, cylinder, sphere, cylinder, and then essentially a box for the feet too. And kind of an oblong for the head, cylinder, cylinder, sphere. I promise I can draw people better than this, but this is just quick and out of proportion. Anyway, so this gives you an idea of where understanding, like why it's important to know how these shapes work with perspective, so that whether you're going to move on to drawing figures, whether you're going to draw animation, cityscapes, still lives, even like, flowers and things like that, trees, there's still going to be some amount of perspective that's involved in that. Now, if you're going to go into cityscapes or like graphic novel type illustration, then you're going to want to go a lot further with perspective. But if you're not planning on going that far, this basic, like rudimentary level perspective will get you pretty far. I hope that helped, and we can go over any questions you guys might have on Saturday.